Do you ever feel like you experience issues that only other empaths could relate to? If you do, then you're definitely not alone. As an empath, you experience things in a way that others might not be able to understand. Being an empath means that you can feel people's emotions more strongly than the average person, and dealing with these emotions can be even more complicated than dealing with your own. So today, we are going to discuss 10 problems only empaths have, so that you can have healthier relationships and get a break from all of the emotional turmoil you may be experiencing. Number 10. Opening up can be overwhelming. When an empath spends an extended period of time with another person, they can become easily overwhelmed by the stress, worries, and emotions that the other person is feeling. For most of us, hiding our true emotions can be difficult, but most empaths can easily see what's actually going on beneath the surface. Because of this, relationships and close friendships can be difficult, and that's not even considering the standard issues that come with both of those scenarios. Empaths can often seem like they are on the periphery of things because of how strongly they react to emotions, and as such, they can sometimes struggle to get close or open up to others. If you have an empath for a friend, patience is usually the best solution here, as it just takes them a bit more time in general. Number 9. People don't often take your advice. In general, human beings aren't always the greatest at putting ourselves in the shoes of others. This creates one of the biggest empath struggles too, as they naturally pick up the tone of the people around them and can understand their perspective or feelings as well as they do their own. If you're an empath and feel like you aren't always getting through to your friends, it may be that you simply understand the situation a little better than your friend. Not feeling like you're getting through to your friends when you give them advice can be annoying too, though, and so it may be better to switch up your approach. Empaths tend to try and connect emotionally, but many people prefer to discuss practical solutions instead and deal with the emotional fallout later. Number 8. You may be drawn more to nature than civilization. Humans are social beings, and for empaths, this is especially the case. Because of the strain that it can take on these types of people, though, they may actually prefer to get away from things more than the typical person. Most people enjoy nature, but empaths can also find comfort and safety from it too. Taking a break from the noise and having to interact with strangers or deal with stressful scenarios is a tempting offer for empaths, and as a result, you can usually find empaths out in nature, taking hikes and taking in the sights. If that isn't possible, empaths can also benefit from walks around their neighborhood or even just spending some time in the backyard too. Out of all the empath problems we've discussed so far, a love for nature and everything outdoors is the one most overlooked by others. Number 7. You have a really hard time not caring. We all have things we care a great deal about, but it's also pretty important to take some time away from the pressure and seriousness of life as well. This goes for both people as well as our goals, and being able to tune things out and get away, either physically or emotionally, is a valuable skill. Empaths can have a lot of trouble closing off from others, which is why they can struggle in crowded environments or places where a lot is going on. Having a hard time not caring is definitely an everyday empath problem, and one that empaths need to be very aware of if they want to avoid fatigue and burnout. Number 6. You can feel like a personal therapist for others. Despite not feeling listened to, empaths can often shoulder a great deal of the load when it comes to their friends' problems. Because empaths know how much venting can mean to a person, they can get overloaded because they have a hard time saying no. While kindness and understanding are definitely two traits of an empath, it still doesn't mean that you should essentially become a therapist for your friend group. Boundaries can help in this way, as well as open and honest communication. People don't usually fully understand how emotions and stress can affect an empath, and they can unintentionally burn out their friend without really knowing it. By the way, make sure to subscribe if you've learned something new today. Number 5. Sounds, smells, and sensations get to you fast. An empath isn't just sensitive to the emotions of others, as they can also be highly sensitive to sounds, smells, and other sensations that others might not find exciting or even run-of-the-mill. Going through the fragrance area of a mall can be pretty overstimulating to some empaths, as can going to concerts or crowded places. If you're the friend of an empath, it may be best to inform them of what the environment is going to be like before taking them along, since this could help avoid an unfortunate situation for them. Empaths and highly sensitive people often overlap, and it isn't just people and their emotions that empaths have to deal with. Number 4. Empaths dread conflict. Besides a select group of people, most human beings would rather avoid conflict if they have the choice. The thing is, when it comes to empaths, they often take things to a whole other level. In a conflict scenario, empaths will usually choose the worst outcome for themselves if it means avoiding confrontation and everything that comes with it. They don't do this just out of kindness, but also fear of being hurt. Because empaths are sensitive by nature, they know that it is probably easier to hurt them than they would maybe even like to admit, and so avoiding the situation altogether is usually the best course of action. This is actually one of the biggest empath problems in relationships too, since they can sometimes avoid asking for help or admit that there is an issue at all. Because of this, communication in a relationship with an empath is extremely important and can keep both parties out of added tension down the line. Number 3. You can feel alone more than you like. In many ways, empaths see the world in a whole different light than the rest of us. While that is a great thing in many ways, it can also make them feel like they aren't really relating to the non-empaths around them. Being an empath is complex for this reason, and a common reaction is to isolate as a result. This is a comforting reaction, but ultimately one that should be avoided if your goal is to make new friends. Relating to a person is extremely important, empath or not, to creating a friendship or a relationship, and it can be difficult for empaths to achieve this. The important thing is to realize that everyone is a little different, and just like you, they simply want to find a way to connect, even if it is in a slightly different way. Number 2. Negative people can really bring you down. Staying positive is hugely important for an empath, and that also extends to who they choose to hang out with. Empaths should look for people who have a lot of positivity to offer, and who don't get bogged down in the little things. As a group of people who are hugely impacted by those they choose to hang around, empaths can have a very difficult time dealing with people who are negative. Low-energy empaths may also become startled by high-energy people, and the same goes for high-energy empaths becoming fatigued around low-energy people. For many of us, surrounding ourselves with people who challenge our beliefs or outlooks is a good thing, but for empaths, it has to be done in a very specific way. Being challenged or feeling like you are being judged for your disposition is not going to end well for an emotionally sensitive person. And so, choosing the company that they keep is a big deal. If you feel like the emotions of other people are a little much at the moment, a good solution for empaths is to look elsewhere instead. Empaths who struggle with other human beings often find companionship with dogs or other animals, and they usually end up becoming very close with one another. Number 1. You need more breaks and rest than others. One of the hardest things about being an empath is feeling that you need to share your gift for tapping into emotions with everyone. Your ability to identify the emotions of those around you almost instantly isn't always the most convenient skill when it comes to situations like at work or the places you frequent. When it comes to places you must interact with day in and day out, it may sometimes be for the best to let people know just why you can sometimes look overwhelmed or disappear for a bit. The reason why empaths often require more space and personal time than the average person is obvious. Everyday actions tax them more than they would the standard person, but it may be helpful to let your coworkers or friends know this too. Informing the people close to you, or who have to interact with your specific needs, will help them better understand why space is so important and make your life easier. For an empath to thrive in a workplace environment, they first have to implement solid breaks from others. If you tell your superior, this is almost always something they can pencil in without a second thought, but you have to tell them in order for them to know. Feeling like you have to sneak away all the time when no one knows why can be pretty stressful on its own, so finding solutions that work for you is important. And if you like this video, then check out these related videos to see more. And make sure to subscribe and leave a comment saying I subscribed, and we will personally reply to your comment.